I do want to welcome you. This is an important lesson. This is an important day in many, many ways. Memorial Day, a time to remember and honor all of those who have sacrificed in such a magnificent way for all of us in this country. And we honor this day and everything it means. Just for our own observation, how many here have someone who has been in your family or a friend or whatever who has sacrificed in one of the wars that we have experienced? Raise your hand. Yeah. To do that is a major event in the life of the person who leaves us and also the life of the people left behind. I have shared this before. I was in submarine service for 4 years, and we were in Philadelphia for yard overhaul. My uncle, Buddy, my mother's brother, died on the USS New Orleans in World War II at Guadalcanal and was hit by a torpedo. He was in the radio room, and I was just a baby at the time, of course. But here was years later, and I was in Philadelphia in the yard overhaul, and I had nothing to do one afternoon because the submarine was up in the air, and they were it was going through its renewal project. And so there I was walking through all of these mothball ships, and I happened to look over, and there was the USS New Orleans. So I got on board, no one there. And I found the radio room, and I sat there for a couple of hours. And as I sat there, I, in my own mind, imagined what might have happened, celebrated him, and I had a very, very interesting experience that is very dominant in my memory. I think it's very interesting to observe that at this time, primarily because that moment meant something to me, and everything that it represented to me was very much impacting my consciousness at the moment. I remember sitting with Dr. Craig Carter, my teacher, who shared with us when he was in China, outside of Peking before World War II. He was the American liaison to China during World War II. Where he lived was very close to a Buddhist temple there, and a young Zen teacher was there with him and took him to meet the master teacher. Craig spent the day with him, and before he left, this Zen teacher gave Dr. Carter a lotus. And he suggested that he go and sit down and observe this lotus for at least 2 hours. Now, Dr. Carter didn't know why he wanted to do that, but he sat down with that lotus flower in this little house he was living in and just sat there and looked at it for 2 hours. When he woke up the next morning, he couldn't wait to get back to his lotus. And when he got back to the lotus, all of the petals had fallen off of it. And he realized in that moment that what he experiences was something no one else in the world experienced, and that was that lotus in that moment, at that time, and the beauty of it in that moment, and everything it took for that lotus to get through the mud and the mire of whatever it was born in, and to rise up and become that beautiful lotus, only to be here for a short period of time and then leave. Craig said that was years ago, and that moment is still here. The lotus is still alive in consciousness. The lotus is here. That one-of-a-kind experience is here. Ernest said, that which is falls upon us but piles up on none. It is on everyone but piles up on none. No one has more than someone else. But the beautiful thing about this idea is the realization that in this oneness, in this lotus consciousness, we begin to understand very clearly the beauty of the moment, the beauty of now, the beauty of our oneness. We are made from one thing that only had itself to make us all out of, and it never duplicated itself. Even if it appears to be similar, it is always different. Emerson said if there were two of anything, there wouldn't be any use for one of them. He said imitation is suicide. You see, I think this is what we do when we begin to evolve into the consciousness of religious science, the consciousness of what we are in truth. Because our principle understands very clearly what Jesus understood 2,000 years ago. Because if we go back and study history correctly, we realize that in the first 50 years of Christianity, it practiced the religion that Jesus practiced. After 50 years, the religion became a religion about him instead of the religion he practiced. He said, "Our Father." But he also pointed out that, again, we are all what? The individualization of God. This is not rules and regulations and dogmas and creeds. This is not anything but a celebration of our oneness unfolding. Every mystic has known this. Every mystic mind has realized it. The mystics have never argued with each other. They all understand very clearly, both East and West, the principle of oneness unfolding as the individual. To celebrate the dignity of our differences is the honor we all have as religious scientists in action, as religious science unfolding. We all think, Dr. Holmes pointed out, that we should always choose to think about what we think about, to make sure, as we have affirmed here for 37 years, this affirmation or this awakening concept of principle in action as the individual. And that's a question. And the question is what I think what I think? Is what you think what you think? Or is it what somebody told you to think? If you believe God is a big boss sitting up on a cloud somewhere, you're going to have rules and regulations to practice religion. But as Dr. Holmes said, the religion of the future will evolve when humanity, when religion is able to get over its superstition, when science is able to get over its materialism, and when philosophy is able to get over its duality, above and beyond. There's no duality. There's only principle, and how we use it is unfolding from us by right of choice, and that choice we make unfolds, and the determination of it, the evaluation of it, happens within the consciousness of what? Every individual who sees it. That's why one group will like one thing and the other will not like the other, or whatever. We all see things in an individual way. We all celebrate things in an individual way. How many know that the happiest people you know are the people who are honoring their individuality and celebrating it by giving it? This is what, I'm a child of the 60s. This is what the 60s was all about. Until we lost our way, and how we did this, I've shared this with my classes many times, is I decided to become a nonconformist in the 60s. I decided conforming to all this nonsense that was going on in the world I was living at the time, so I nonconformed. And one day I'm in Griffith Park with long hair and a leather jacket on and all those beads around my neck, and I looked around and there was about 100,000 people there. It looked just like me. Okay. I appreciate what I know I am. Say that. A mighty moving power of God. See, all of us are. And that individuality as us unfolding as a mighty moving power of God is demonstrating itself in different ways because there's difference everywhere. How many know people who are upset because of difference? All they want to be is upset. Everything's different. Someone who knew this is very interesting because we're not only celebrating Memorial Day today, we're celebrating the 75th anniversary of the Golden Gate Bridge, and we do it, and we're honored to have Jim here. He cut the ribbon when they, no. No, Jim. He didn't cut the ribbon. He gave him the scissors, though, to do it with. So. The man who built the Golden Gate Bridge designed it and did something that they said could not be done. How many know that they said that bridge could not be built? His name was Joseph Strauss. Now, here's some information that you may not know. Some religions, especially those who have been around a while, we know this story and we know this truth because this is what happened. This wonderful architect and builder of great things, Joseph Strauss, was contemplating suicide. His friends knew it. He was very depressed and down, and so they took him to hear somebody, Dr. Ernest Holmes. He made an appointment with Ernest Holmes and came in for counseling. That's what we're all about. We're here not only to speak on Sunday, we're here for counseling, we're here for treatment, we're here for whatever you need. They took Joseph Strauss, the builder of the Golden Gate Bridge, in to work with and counsel with and study with Dr. Ernest Holmes. He went through our classes, and when he got the contract to build the Golden Gate Bridge, what happened at that moment was when they started building it, every day that bridge was in construction, he had all of the crew of that bridge gather, and they opened up the Science of Mind magazine and read the treatment for that day. Every day that bridge was worked on. Isn't that interesting? Now, later, how many have been to Founders Church of Religious Science in Los Angeles, 6th and Barindo? You've been to Founders? Okay. You know, it's a beautiful, beautiful building. It's round. Ernest Holmes wanted it to look like a planetarium. He wanted comfortable seats with stars overhead. And if you go to 6th and Barindo and Founders Church of Religious Science is there, it's now Center for Spiritual Living, as we are. You will walk in there and you will realize how beautiful it is. And if you want to know who built it, Joseph Strauss built our Founders Church of Religious Science, the man who built Golden Gate Bridge. Along with Paul Williams. Paul Williams, the architect, he was the first major black architect in the country. So Joe and Joseph Strauss and the architect Paul Williams gathered their consciousness, their talent, and created this wonderful, wonderful building that he built to honor Dr. Ernest Holmes, and he built it the way Ernest wanted it built. We have the power to approach anything in our life, no matter how long they said it couldn't be done, and do it. I saw something on PBS recently where they were pointing out the major breakthroughs in medical science because one doctor said, yes, it can be done. Yes, we can find an answer. Yes, we can do this. And because of his determination to know there's something there, even though we don't know what it is, he found it. How many are ready to find something right now? Something beautiful, something wonderful, something loving, something healthy, something happy. I was sharing with Dwayne before the service that one day one of our ministers walked into a religious science work in Southern California. He had a cold, and everybody he met there said, oh, that's a terrible cold you have. Oh, that's really a terrible cold you have, blah, blah, blah. He was there all day. At the end of the day, somebody said, what did you do today? He said, I walked around this facility all day trying to find a practitioner that would address my health instead of reminding me I had a cold. Oh, okay. How many of you are ready to stop addressing what you don't want and start addressing what you do want? Okay. How many know as the individuality of God in action, you have the power to do that? How many know that, if you would take just a moment, like looking at the lotus and asking yourself, this is the beauty of me, this is the joy of me, it will never leave me, even if the petals fall off. And it's ready to respond to my what? To my observation, to my expectancy, to that which I am ready to be responsible for, which is the ability to respond and do it in a beautiful and loving way. You see, the concept that we're talking about this morning, the honoring the individuality of everyone everywhere, the honoring the dignity of the self, the dignity of individuality. This beautiful idea moving forth as us is the mystical secret of the age. The mystical secret of the age is unity. We're all part of one thing demonstrating itself in many different ways. Celebrate the difference. Celebrate the difference. Dr. Ernest Holmes said the concept of unity is the mystical secret of the age, the key to spiritual wisdom and to the teaching of Jesus. Unity. Unity, not duality, unity. You see, we're part of one thing. Our challenge is to not be in duality thinking about oneness, but to understand we are oneness, understanding duality. Oneness is the great teaching. It's the great teaching of many, many mystics, both East and West. Oneness, unity. Institutionalized religion has overlooked this. They have mainly produced an idea that promoted conformity. And conformity is different than unity, isn't it? See, unity is a free, wonderful, beautiful thing. Conformity is, walking in step. Everyone say, how many have heard the concept, dance as if nobody's looking? Okay. Well, how about your dance of life? Okay. How many are ready to experience your dance of life as the individual you are and not respond to whether somebody is looking or not? To go ahead and be what your inner love and intelligence and creativity tells you you can be. Isn't it wonderful? Nancy decided to pick up the guitar and learn what to do with it. If she did not do that, she wouldn't have stood up here this morning and performed as beautifully as she did. And the same thing with anything that you do in life. The magnificence of you is always ready to become the best of you, but the challenge we have is to wake up so that we don't allow our subjective mind to come forth and keep leading us around by the nose. There's something on the news right now that's a beautiful illustration of this. I don't know if you heard this or not. Do you know that people coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq, these wonderful veterans that are coming back from there are experiencing traffic accidents 40% higher than people who have not been over there? And what is happening, these men and women are driving down the road and something comes up and all of a sudden they're back in Iraq. They're trying to get away from an explosion. They're doing, but they're not there. Physically, they are there in subjective mind. How many know that your subjective mind, even though you are consciously saying, I want change, I want my individuality to manifest as the beautiful in a new and wonderful way, I am ready to let go of that which has been and move forward to that which you can be, and all of a sudden the subjective mind comes in and it runs you off the road because you think something's going to blow up in front of you. Okay. See, this is the beauty of religious science. This is the beauty of what we teach, is to say, okay, this has happened. I can't do anything about what has happened.